Hello and welcome back, guys. So thank you for stopping by today again. And to my returning subscribers, thank you very much. To the new subscribers, 2 roses for you. And you that is yet to subscribe, I really don't know what you're waiting for. So previously we discussed that pharmacodynamics deals with the action of drugs on the body. And these drugs often act as agonists or antagonists on receptors. What are receptors? Receptors are simply specialized proteins in the body that aids in the communication between cells and their environment. So in pharmacology, an agonist is a substance that activates these receptors in the body to produce a specific response. And it acts like an endogenous molecule and enhances the receptor's activity. So an endogenous substance is a substance that the body naturally produces, like hormones, enzymes, growth factors, cytokines, and even neurotransmitters. So on the other hand, an antagonist is a substance that inhibits the action of agonist, more like it poses an opposition to an agonist. So an antagonist binds to receptors, but they don't activate it, like they don't provoke any response. Basically, we have 3 types of agonists. We have the full agonist, partial agonist, and inverse agonist. So the full agonist binds to a receptor and it fully activates it, resulting to a maximal response. As shown on the graph, you can see that the response there is at the highest point, like it's to the top, while the partial agonist is a ligand that binds with receptors, but it only activates it partially. Their response is not up to the full agonist, but it's close to, so their efficacy is lower than that of the full agonist. While the inverse agonist decreases the activity of these receptors completely, like it's nowhere close to the partial agonist. And we have other types of agonists like the biased agonist, physiological agonist, synthetic agonist, and even mixed agonists. And these agonists are significant in pharmacology and medicine in general because it determines the nature and extent of physiological responses in the body. So let's discuss antagonism. The general classes of antagonism are chemical antagonism, physiological antagonism, and pharmacological antagonism. But in this video, we'll be dwelling more on the pharmacological antagonism because that's what's more essential here. So this pharmacological antagonism is majorly divided into 3 parts, and they are the competitive antagonism, irreversible antagonism, and non-competitive antagonism. We'll look at each of them briefly. In the competitive antagonism, the antagonist competes with the agonist for binding to the same receptor site, but increasing the concentration of the agonist can overcome the antagonist effect. So if you increase the concentration of an agonist, the antagonist will be subdued. Also, in competitive antagonism, both the antagonist and the agonist have the same chemical structure. Take note of that. So let's see the irreversible antagonism. Irreversible antagonism usually forms strong covalent bonds with the receptor, which makes it permanently inactive. Unlike the competitive antagonism, we cannot overcome irreversible antagonism by increasing the concentration of the agonist. So in the non-competitive antagonism, the antagonist binds to a different site of the receptor, and that site is usually an allosteric site, instead of binding on the same site as the agonist. So this binding leads to a structural change in the receptor, and it makes it lose its affinity for the agonist. There are other types of pharmacological antagonism, and they are chemical antagonism, functional antagonism, physiological antagonism, and the rest of them. Okay, I'll be using a lock and key model to describe the activity of the agonist and antagonist. So we have this lock and two different keys. One of the keys is the agonist, while the other one is the antagonist. So we say that the agonist binds to receptors and they provoke a response. So this agonist key goes into the keyhole of the lock and it provokes a response. It causes the lock to open. While the antagonist key goes into the keyhole of the lock, but it doesn't open the lock, it doesn't provoke a response. And as long as it stays there, the lock cannot open, thereby preventing the agonist key from entering the keyhole to unlock it. And because of this, antagonists are usually called blockers. So the antagonist key must be taken out of the keyhole to allow the agonist key open up the lock. So guys, that's all for agonist and antagonist. If you have any question or you need me to explain further on something you noticed in the course of the video, you can leave it in the comment section and I'll attend to that subsequently. Thank you for watching. Do well to like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Please share with those you feel will benefit from this video. And till I come your way next time, until then, stay curious and keep learning.